I want peace, and peace I will have.
Was being a lesbian the greatest secret for the early Hollywood actresses? It seems so. This period was dominated by straight relations. However, here are some actresses who lived their true lives as a complete secret. Number 9. Greta Garbo. Stepping into Hollywood's then dream studio, MGM. With her 1926 silent film Torrent, Greta Garbo was a real star, who's been continuously linked with some of the many suspected lesbian actresses of her time. The Swedish-born Greta Lovisa Gustafsson was uncomfortable with herself despite her glamorous image. Behind the camera, she was often depressed, reclusive, and deeply private. This was despite the fact that she was once considered the most beautiful actress on the planet. Now, although she dated numerous men throughout her life, Garbo never married, which has led to a lot of speculation about her personal life and romantic preferences. In the 1920s, while working on a German film, Garbo started secretly dating Marlene Dietrich. The result was Garbo estranging herself from Dietrich. One of Garbo's most significant relationships was with Swedish actress Mimi Pollack, a classmate from drama school. The two exchanged intimate letters for nearly 60 years. In her letters to Pollack, Garbo expressed deep feelings of longing and love, often referring to herself as Pollack's old bachelor, a playful nod to the unconventional roles they had in each other's lives. When Pollack later had a child, Garbo even wrote that she was proud to be a father to the baby, which further highlighted the deep affection and bond between them. Another key relationship was with the poet and playwright Mercedes da Costa, known for her affairs with several Hollywood women. After moving to Hollywood, Garbo had a romantic relationship with writer and actress Salka Vietel, who introduced her to Mercedes da Costa. Garbo and da Costa shared a passionate, albeit complicated connection with the correspondence. Made public years after their deaths, shows how close they were. Da Costa once remembered that her greatest love was for Garbo. However, the romance eventually faded, and Garbo later distanced herself from da Costa, perhaps because of the poet's tendency to speak openly about the relationship, something that Garbo, who was highly protective of her privacy, found difficult. Garbo and da Costa had a rocky on-and-again, off-again relationship, but it remains one of the most important relationships in Garbo's life. Throughout her life, Garbo had other rumoured relationships with women, including actresses like Ona Munson, but these were never confirmed. Hollywood at the time was a place where such relationships had to be kept hidden due to societal pressures and the rigid control studios had over their stars' public images. Despite her fame, Garbo lived most of her life as a recluse, famously stating, "I want to be alone." Number 8. Barbara Stanwyck. People have often wondered about Barbara Stanwyck's sexuality, though she never openly discussed it, and hence we can't really be sure. There's a lot of speculation and innuendo surrounding her, and while it's impossible to say anything for certain, some signs point to the possibility that she may have been interested in women, at least to some extent. She's one of the most respected and versatile actresses in Hollywood, a real gold from Hollywood's golden age. Known for strong authentic performances in her 60-year-long career, she was a favourite of many top directors like Frank Capra, Cecil B. DeMille, and Fritz Lang. She started out as Ziegfeld Girl in the early 1920s, and later transitioned to film, starring in over 85 movies and numerous TV shows. Back in the late 1920s, Stanwyck was teaching dance at a speakeasy known for its gay and lesbian clientele, run by the openly lesbian Texas Guinan. The connection, coupled with Stanwyck's tough, brassy persona, led to a strong following among the LGBTQ+ community. Then there's the story of Tallulah Bankhead, who once claimed to have slept with Stanwyck, adding fuel to the rumours. Biographers like Axel Madsen have noted that many in Hollywood believed Stanwyck was the biggest closeted lesbian in the industry. Her marriages to Frank Fay and Robert Taylor are often referred to as lavender marriages, supposedly arranged by the studios to keep her true sexuality under wraps. And let's not forget a close lifelong relationship with Helen Ferguson, her publicist. They never defined their relationship, but it's been speculated that it may have been romantic. Despite all of this, Stanwyck was fiercely private and never confirmed any of the rumours, leaving her sexuality in addition to the other suspects. Number 7. Dorothy Arzner. As we begin, we have an actress who stood out in the 90s Hollywood for a bold embrace towards her identity, even if she had many film achievements to her name. We're talking about Dorothy Arzner, who, despite beginning her career in 1919 and some inspiring achievements, shines through due to her choice of being openly gay. You know, as it was incredibly rare in her time. Now, if we really take a look at her talent, there's only one fact about her that needs to be said. She was the only female director working in Hollywood during her era, That sure takes guts, right? Add another tiny bit about her is that over a 24-year career, she directed nearly 24 films and made history by becoming the first woman to join the Directors Guild Association. But Arzner's influence didn't stop with her own work. She was also a mentor to many, including a young Francis Ford Coppola, who went on to become a legendary filmmaker. While she was professionally successful, her personal life was just as groundbreaking. For the last 40 years of her life, Arzner lived with a partner, Marion Morgan, who was a choreographer and screenwriter. The relationship was an open secret in Hollywood, and there are even rumors that Arzner had romantic relationships with several other famous actresses of the time, like Joan Crawford, Alan Nazimova, Billie Burke, and Ona Munson. Arzner's life and career actually just makes us realize how strong and independent she was in a world that often demanded people to hide who they really were. Number 6. Katharine Hepburn. Sometimes, to live in a judgmental society, one needs to develop a misleading identity. The rebellious actress Katharine Hepburn was a true example of this. You see, at least 16 books about her have been written, in most of which she was portrayed as a lesbian hiding safely behind fame. She did try to divert the public's speculation with her autobiography, Me. It didn't quite work out. James Robert Parish's biography, Katharine Hepburn, The Untold Story, looks into the sexual aspect of her life, suggesting that Hepburn was bisexual, if not lesbian. He argues that Hepburn's relationships with men, including a well-publicised romance with Howard Hughes and a long-term affair with Spencer Tracy, were largely just for show. He even hints that Tracy, who is often described as a troubled and abusive alcoholic, may have been bisexual himself, though this claim is less evident. Hepburn's intimate relationships with women, however, seem more telling. Her deep and lasting connection with socialite Laura Harding, who accompanied her to Hollywood and remained close until her death, is one such example. Hepburn also formed significant relationships with other women such as actress Elisa Landi and movie editor Jane Loring, both of whom were rumoured to be bisexual or lesbian. And in addition to this, after the death of lesbian actress Constance Collier, Hepburn lived with Collier's companion Phyllis Wilburn, who was eventually buried in the Hepburn family plot. Quite the history, huh? Her devotion to Spencer Tracy was partly a strategy to deflect attention from her own sexuality. Their relationship was low-key, and after Tracy's death, Hepburn worked to mythologize their love story, claiming that the secrecy was out of respect for Tracy's wife. This narrative, while romantic, also served to keep the spotlight away from her sexual orientation. Number 5. Joan Crawford. The intense pressure of not coming out of the closet can eventually come out in dark ways. This was the case of Hollywood's another legendary actress, Joan Crawford. While she's best known for her iconic roles in films like Mildred Pierce and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, there have been persistent rumors about her romantic relationships with women, including Marilyn Monroe, Barbara Stanwyck, and Greta Garbo. But you know who absorbed those frustrations of hers? Two of her oldest children, Christina and Christopher. After Crawford died in 1977, Christina wrote a tell-all memoir called Mummy Dearest, where she described the alleged abuse that she and her brother suffered at their mother's hands. The book was later turned into a film starring Faye Dunaway, giving away Crawford's reputation as a complicated and often ruthless figure. One of the most intriguing stories comes from the book The Fixers, Eddie Mannix, Howard Strickling, and the MGM publicity machine. It's said that Crawford was involved in a sexually explicit film with other women, which studio executive Eddie Mannix had to bury to protect her career. Beyond this, she was reportedly a frequent visitor to Harlem's lesbian clubs, known for their live sex shows and uninhibited atmosphere. Crawford was married 4 times and had 4 children, but her daughter Christina, in a 2010 interview, confirmed her mother's relationships with women. Christina explained that back in those days, the studios tightly controlled public perceptions of stars, keeping any hint of queerness hidden. Crawford's bisexuality has been largely erased from public memory, even more so than other actresses like Garbo and Dietrich, whose queer identities have been acknowledged after their deaths. Number 4. Marlene Dietrich. You could blame Marlene Dietrich if the sight of a woman dressed in a suit makes you weak in the knees. Dietrich was a free-spirited, brave individual who grew up in the artistically inclined Weimar era of early 20th century Germany. She forever changed women's perceptions of pants by frequently appearing in tuxedos and pants on the silver screen, during an era when doing so was considered uncool. She also expressed her affection for both men and women without hesitation. Gutsy? Yep. Dietrich's relationships with other women were an open secret, particularly in Hollywood's close-knit and often silent LGBTQ+ circles. Despite being married to film producer Rudolf Sieber, for most of her life, Dietrich's marriage was more of a partnership of convenience than a traditional romantic relationship. In fact, their marriage endured because it allowed Dietrich the freedom to pursue her desires outside of societal constraints. Her affairs with men, as noted by her daughter Maria River in a 1992 tell-all book, were reportedly used as a way of controlling and manipulating them, rather than a source of pleasure for her. She was calculated and intentional, knowing that her allure could grant her influence in male-dominated Hollywood. It was said that her relationships with women were much more satisfying for her, yet some people were unwilling to categorize Dietrich as bisexual. She's reportedly locked lips with women on screen as early as 1930. Dietrich and Greta Garbo were often rumoured to have had an affair, though the nature of their relationship's been the subject of speculation and myth-making for years. During her most emotional periods, she had a somewhat supportive relationship with the French singer Edith Piaf. Dietrich also had an affair with actress Kay Francis and with the well-known writer and playwright Mercedes da Costa. Dietrich defied easy labelling, and her lovers and friends knew her as someone who transcended gender and sexual binaries. As film critic Kenneth Tynan once remarked, Dietrich had sex without gender. Capturing the actress's fluid and non-conforming approach to relationships, her sexual freedom was part of a larger philosophy that rejected societal norms in favour of individual pleasure and autonomy. Number 3. Hattie McDaniel and Tallulah Bankhead. Now, onto a more secretive lesbian actress who became a legend by acting in a legendary film, Hattie McDaniel. What exactly did she achieve? Well, nothing simple for sure, as she made history as the first African American to win an Oscar for a role as Mammy in the 1939 movie Gone with the Wind. And while her professional achievements were groundbreaking, her personal life has sparked a lot of curiosity, especially when it comes to a rumoured relationship with the famous and wild actress Tallulah Bankhead. Now, talking about Tallulah Bankhead, she was a true original, an actress known for a big personality, unconventional behaviour, and love for living life to the fullest. She was mainly a stage actress, but also starred in films like Alfred Hitchcock's Lifeboat in 1944. In her personal life, Bankhead was very open about her faults, including her struggles with substance abuse and a chain-smoking habit. This wasn't just 20 to 50, a lung-tearing 120 cigarettes a day. Bankhead didn't like to label herself as bisexual, instead she called herself ambisextrous, to describe her attraction to both men and women. Throughout her life, she was romantically linked to many famous people, including Greta Garbo, Marlene Dietrich, and yet Hattie McDaniel. Number 2. Alla Nazimova. Moving on, we have the legendary Alla Nazimova, born in Crimea in 1879 as Mariam Levinson. She had a difficult childhood marked by estrangement from her parents. She moved to the United States in the early 1900s. Originally trained in the theatre in Russia, she became known in the US for her work in Ibsen's plays such as Hedda Gabler and A Doll's House, which helped to transition into silent film and become one of the highest paid actresses in Hollywood by the late 1910s. She turned to acting as an escape, eventually studying under the famous Konstantin Stanislavski at the Moscow Art Theatre. After moving to New York, she quickly gained prominence in American theatre. Her transition to film came in 1916 with War Brides, which established her as a leading lady in silent cinema. Her influence grew when she signed a contract with Metro Pictures, which allowed her considerable creative freedom, something rare for a woman at that time. Like many LGBTQ+ individuals in early Hollywood, Nazimova maintained a lavender marriage with actor Charles Bryant. In Nazimova's case, this arrangement allowed her to continue a relationship with women while maintaining the idea of a heterosexual marriage, which was crucial for Hollywood stars in the public eye. You see, her marriage to Bryant lasted over a decade, but it eventually collapsed in scandal when the press uncovered that the marriage wasn't legally valid. Bryant had secretly married another woman, which exposed the true nature of his relationship with Nazimova and damaged her reputation. She was a groundbreaking actress, director and producer all at once. She had numerous relationships with women, many of whom were also well-known figures in Hollywood, earning her the reputation as the mother of Sapphic Hollywood. Nazimova is perhaps best known for founding the Garden of Allah Hotel on Sunset Boulevard, which became a popular hangout for queer stars of the time. She also coined the term sewing circle as a code word for bisexual, bicurious, and lesbian actresses. Nazimova's lovers included Jean Acker, Dolly Wilde, Grace Diamond, and Gleska Marshall, with whom she lived from 1929 until her death in 1945. Nazimova's influence extended to helping launch the careers of other queer individuals in Hollywood. Number 1. Mercedes da Costa. Finally, it's Mercedes da Costa. She was a Cuban-American poet, playwright, and novelist who became one of the most well-known lesbian figures of early 20th century Hollywood and Broadway. Born in 1893 to a wealthy Spanish-Cuban family in New York, da Costa developed a fascination with theatre and women from an early age, leading her to live a life filled with artistic ambitions and passionate, often rocky romantic relationships. While DaCosta's literary career never reached great heights, she was prolific. She published 3 volumes of poetry, 2 novels and several plays, though many of her works went unproduced or were not well received. Despite her struggles as a writer, DaCosta's personal life kept her in the public eye. One of DaCosta's earliest and most intense relationships was with the famous dancer, Isadora Duncan. The two met in 1917, and Duncan's letters to DaCosta were filled with passionate declarations of love. Their relationship was complex, especially as Duncan's personal life became increasingly chaotic due to financial difficulties and personal tragedies. When Duncan died tragically in 1927, DaCosta was devastated. After Duncan, DaCosta had a well-known affair with British-born actress Eva Le Gallienne, which lasted 5 years. The relationship was marked by both passion and jealousy, and though it ended, DaCosta always remembered it as one of the most significant loves of her life. However, Le Gallienne later distanced herself from DaCosta, especially after the publication of DaCosta's memoir, Here Lies the Heart, in 1960, which hinted at their relationship. Le Gallienne, along with many other women from DaCosta's past, was furious about the implication of the book, and accused DaCosta of fabricating stories. Perhaps DaCosta's most famous relationship was with Swedish actress Greta Garbo, one of the most iconic film stars of the 1920s and 30s. We've already covered their history while talking about Greta Garbo. Was this the life these actresses deserved? Comment down your thoughts. For more Golden Age Hollywood content, like this video and subscribe to our channel. With more, we'll catch you soon.